today's video podcast, I am just giving a big shout out to the Texas Realtors. Your association pushed for the passage of laws that require more transparency in the management structures and standard practices of the HOA management companies. The things it helped us with are the things that licensees and title companies complain about most, and these are the costs for obtaining subdivision information, resale certificate updates, and transfer fees. The new law caps the fee for obtaining the subdivision information at $375 and the fee for an updated resale certificate of $75. In addition, the new law requires that the management certificate, which is required to be filed by the HOA in the deed records in which the property is located, also provide the amount and description of transfer fees that must be charged at closing. That certificate then must be electronically filed with the Texas Real Estate Commission within 7 days of the recording. What this means is you, the listing agent, and the buyer's agent can look up on the TREC database the transfer fees which are due upon closing, and then can better negotiate paragraph C of your addendum for property subject to mandatory homeowners association. Paragraph C of that addendum is that paragraph where you negotiate that the buyer pay a set fee not to exceed that amount, and then you have the seller pay the remainder, whatever that may be. The law goes on to require that if the fees associated with the transfer change, the Property Owners Association must file an amended certificate within 30 days of that change. And that amended certificate must then be electronically filed with TREC within 7 days of its filing. I personally believe these changes go a long way to protect homeowners from unreasonable and surprising closing cost fees. The buyer and seller can now know what the fees are and then negotiate accordingly. For clarification purposes, please understand that paragraph C of the addendum for property subject to mandatory membership in a property owners association covers all fees that are charged by the Property Owners Association when the transfer occurs. Meaning, if the fee would not be charged but for the transfer, then it is covered under this paragraph. A recent change to this addendum has caused some of the misunderstandings and problems that we're hearing about at closing as to who pays what costs. I discussed this in a prior video podcast. The change, which came in April, moved the cost of deposits for reserves, which actually includes capital accounts and foundation fees, away from the buyer and into the amounts to be negotiated between buyer and seller under this paragraph C of the addendum. As a result, a seller who paid these fees when a buyer just a few years ago, because the contract read that way, may get stuck paying those fees now as a seller, depending on how you negotiate paragraph C. A seller who is not forewarned about this change could become very upset at closing seeing these fees. The new law requiring the posting of these transfer fees, which takes effect September 1, 2021, will be of great help when negotiating this contract. The legislature also included in the bill some additional consumer credit and privacy protections from the management companies for the homeowners. Kudos to the Texas Realtors for getting this legislation. Thank you for viewing our video podcast. Stay tuned for more updates in the coming weeks. Allegiance Title is your resource for results.